It is now my great pleasure to welcome the Reverend Elizabeth Stamper.
So, thank you all for being here. So I'm going to take you on a little trip into the desert, into another world and another culture. And that other world, that other culture that I got to live in for a week, actually twice, in 2003 and 2004. That little world lives there up in the northern Nevada desert. And that community, that world is called Burning Man, the Burning Man Festival. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of that. Okay, some woke people are here. So, how did we get to Burning Man? First of all, just say that at that time, Mike was working on his dissertation for his PhD in mythology. And he had heard that Burning Man was a Dionysian festival, and his topic for his dissertation was Dionysus, the god of ecstasy. And ecstasy actually means, to stand outside yourself, to get beyond kind of your normal routine or everyday mind and experience, and move beyond your comfort zones and have an ecstatic experience. But of course, the way most of us think of ecstasy, we think of it, not the drug that might come to mind, but just as a very incredibly blissful experience, right? When you're in ecstasy, you're like, whoa. But this is a good description for Burning Man because it definitely invites you out of your comfort zone. So why am I talking about that today? When we look at our world, we see more examples probably if we're looking out at the world as it is. We see probably more examples of almost like the opposite of ecstasy and bliss. And this idea that we can transform that world that we see by first transforming our way of being in the world, our personal way of seeing, imagining, responding to the world. And Burning Man I thought it would be great and fun to actually share stories from that because it did that for me. It gave me these, and I'll just say, starting with leaving Burning Man, after that first week, we had gone there in an RV, and you guys feel so far away. Come closer. And Mike and I lived in our RV that whole week, and it was as we were leaving on the last day. It's a 7-week festival. Some people just come for the last weekend, but we'd been there. And we picked up a hitchhiker who just wanted a ride to the gate, and we're driving along, and all of a sudden I am flooded with this incredible feeling. And, when you have a huge feeling, sometimes you don't put words to it right away. You're not thinking what it is. But later on, when I try to describe it, I would say it was a feeling of freedom. It was a feeling that everything was possible, that I could live and do, I could follow my calling. I could be who I needed to be. I could show up in the world the way that I really wanted to. And that, it wasn't just an idea like, oh, this sounds great. No, it was like my whole, I couldn't speak for a few moments, right? Just flooded with this feeling of possibility and freedom. So let me describe what the Burning Man, how it's set up. I have to use my hands here. But just imagine that out in this vast desert, there's a huge circle. and draw a diameter through the middle of the circle. And on this side of the circle, where you're kind of driving in, this side of the circle are all the tents and RVs and just things that people brought. It's where the people lived and partied and made music and made incredible things happen. And if you were walking along in that area, you might actually just come across a huge space that's covered with hundreds of Barbie and Ken dolls who are all dressed in crazy costumes and posed in pretty interesting poses, but just a whole Barbie and Ken graveyard over here. And then you walk along a little bit further and people are standing in these baby pools. And if you stand in the baby pool, clothing optional, you can be sprayed in the color of your choice. So I chose green. I walked home that day as completely green, head to toe. And I got one guy on a bicycle riding by me was like, green. Like I got approval even. But it's kind of crazy. There's a rack of clothes that just says, take one, leave one, whatever you want. Really lots and lots of nice clothes. So what's on the other half of that big circle, that's called the playa. And that's where these incredible art installations are put up. And I encourage anyone who's curious, go online and look at what some of these art installations are. And by the way, Burning Man's been going on since 1987, and it just started with a few people on a beach outside of San Francisco. And when we went in 2003, 2004, there were about 30 to 40,000 people, and the latest numbers are 70,000 people come. And I'm going to go in a little minute to the principles and the laws by which this culture is created. This culture of freedom and art, creative expression is amazing there. So these art installations, some of them are really big and intricate, and you actually would apply to make your art installation before you come, and you'd get permission, and then you either bring your own crew or you enlist people that are there, because it's all about collaboration, and you show up and you do service and help make art. But really incredible art everywhere expressed. And when you walk out on the playa, like it's huge, you can go a long way out, and at the far end, on the other side, is the Man. That is the biggest installation. It's always from the central promenade, from the inhabited area through the playa, and there's the Man. And that's many stories high. It's flammable, and it's made by the people as they come that week. And at the very last night, Sunday night, it's set on fire, hence the name Burning Man. Hence the name. So when we got there, sounded great in theory, it sounded like fun. When we arrived, I could not leave the RV for a day and a half. I was looking out the window, and there's not a lot of people even there that first day. There are a lot of people, but not as many as going to be there for the weekend. When I was looking out the window, I'm seeing this bleak desert and all these weird looking people, and I'm thinking, I did this already. In the 70s, I went to the hippie music festivals. What am I doing here now? When I finally got up my nerve and I ventured out of the RV, I found out why. I'll share some of that with you. So we're there to experience kind of being in a whole other culture, a whole other world. We know, don't we, that we're all deeply conditioned by the culture that we've grown up in. We're deeply programmed by the beliefs and behaviors and all of it that our parents, our family, and our culture, our society, how they want us to be, how they expect us to be. And yet there have always been people throughout every generation have those people who dared to say no to the constraints of their cultural conditioning, who wanted more than what they were learning how to be. You know, they wanted more. And so what they would do is they would forge their own path, follow their own way towards transformation. They wanted to discover more. Who can I be? What can I be? What is the meaning of all this? And as they were doing this, you know, and following their bliss, finding their calling, they didn't just change themselves. They changed the world. Because that is how the world is changed. It's changed by our collective consciousness. It's you know, the world as it is, it's a reflection of the consciousness of everyone here on the planet. And you and me, everyone here in the room, everyone on the Zoom, we are co-creating the world as we sit here. Moment by moment, thought by thought, our emotions, our energy, our belief systems. It's like the song says, we are the world. We are the world. So how do we make the world look a little bit more like the world we can envision? So Burning Man has run how it happens this way since 1987 is that they do have 10 principles. I don't know what year they came up with them, but the 10 principles are they're not like rules and laws you have to obey or you're going to get thrown in someplace, but they're more like reflecting the shared values, the cultural ethos. And I'm going to tell you what those principles are and why they might work to create the world that we want. And when I was thinking about it this morning, thinking about these principles, what came to mind was we have beautiful principles already, right? In our Declaration of Independence, in the Constitution, there are descriptions of how we could be with each other. They're in the 10 Commandments. Every religion has its rules. But what if all of those suggestions or invitations, be this way, be that way, they're not like you should or else? Well, that doesn't really work, does it? They're more like, well, you know what? You could love each other. You know what? You could. And wouldn't you if you could? You could take care of the planet. And wouldn't you if you could? We could. We could do all these things. So think about that in the context of these principles. I just read them to you, and then I'll go in and zero in on a few of them. Some of them are just self-explanatory, but radical inclusion, gifting, decommodification, radical self-reliance, and radical self-expression. Communal effort, civic responsibility, leave no trace, participation, immediacy. So here's how these principles encourage a culture of care for yourself, for others, and the planet Earth. So radical inclusion. Everyone's welcome. We're all equal, so we're all welcome and treated equally with love and respect. The next view, decommodification and leave no trace. So that word decommodification translates to you can't buy or sell anything at Burning Man. There are no commercial sponsorships. The only thing you can buy if you go down to the Central Cafe is water or coffee. Thank goodness for the coffee part. But everything else you bring with you. You bring with you. You bring in your RV or in the back of your truck, and when you set up your tent, you bring everything that you need with you. And then when you think about leave no trace, at Burning Man, you take everything back so that at the end of the week, when everyone has left by Monday, there is no physical evidence that anything has happened here. And this just gives me chills to imagine us being that responsible. You know, I read this quote, I don't know who said it, but the quote is, if everyone lived like Americans live, it would take 6 planets to support the human race. Not just one. If everyone consumed and lived the way we do in our lifestyle in this country, it would take 6 planets to support us. So decommodification, gifting, and leave no trace. So people do, it's a very generous culture, right? You just, we made friends with an RV group of people parked next to us, and we made dinners and shared dinners with them. At one of those dinners at sunset one day, here comes a couple of young people, a guy and a girl, they're probably in their early 20s, and she's carrying a huge tuba, and they just come up to us, they smell the food or whatever, and they say, like, can we trade you a song on the tuba for some dinner? It's like, of course. But in the entrance of gifting, you don't even have to give the song, but of course, they want to sing their song and play their tuba because gifting is what feels good, right? When you give someone a gift, or you're excited about a gift to give them, I think half the time when I give a gift, I'm way more excited than the person's receiving it, because I don't really know what they want, but I was excited. I'm excited about giving that gift. So imagine again that culture where that's one of the principles. Come, and people do, they come and they bring lots and lots of extra stuff to just give away, And if they can't give it away, they take it back with them. And then the last two, I'm not going over all of them, but the last two are participation and immediacy. So participation, it says, we believe that transformative change in individual or society can only occur through the medium of deeply personal participation. When you're really there and you're really involved in whatever that is, that's when we change. We make the world only through actions that open the heart. Everyone here is invited to work. Everyone's invited to play. And there is, in some of the contemplative Christian teachings, contemplative Christianity is meditation a la Christianity. There's an idea called participatory consciousness. And it's also called communion consciousness. And that is different than the secular consciousness, kind of eye for an eye, equal value, I'll give you this amount of money for that thing or whatever. participatory consciousness is, an example of it is change, and how it was changed kind of in a paradigm, as a paradigm, was the Last Supper, when Jesus got down on his knees and said, I am going to wash your feet. I'm going to wash your feet. And Peter, one of his disciples, says, oh, no, that's not okay. You're the Lord, I'm the disciple, I'm the servant. I wash your feet, you don't wash my feet. And he says, no, you cannot participate with me unless you let me. That's so beautiful, isn't it? Just like someone who's probably way more enlightened than many humans throughout history is understanding that the way to communicate awakening, enlightenment, real love is an experiential participation with each other. When we can be with another person and feel like in our heart of hearts, there's no difference between us. And I'm here to give the gift of my heart, which is love. And even just driving here today, looking at cars I'm driving by, all of a sudden I felt all that love. And I thought, it's just so easy to be happy. All you have to do is choose to open your heart and love whatever and whomever is in front of you. And you get the reward in that moment of feeling that love. And of course, my whole bit here is that when you get that reward, you are uplifting the whole world into that same consciousness, that this is the reality we want. And it could be this easy if we can learn how to find those things in us that put up a barrier to loving everyone. That say, oh, I can't love you because, or I can't love you because, or here's a really good reason for not loving you. And then we do our work, we do our meditation, we do our healing, and we come back to the knowing that it's already inside of us, the love that we want. Another Beatles song, right? The love you take in the end is equal to the love you make. It's already inside us. It's not like you should love everyone. It's just that we could. And we would if we knew how. So and then the immediacy. I just love that. It's like it's right now. Right? Remember, be here now. Immediacy. In this immediate moment, I have thought about what I was going to say. But in this immediate moment, can I improvise? Can I let go of thinking how it should be or could be or what's planned? Or can I just do a little improv in this moment, which is did anyone here done improv or watched it? So you know the cardinal rule in improv is yes and. So two people get up on a stage and they're going to do a skit, and one person starts with a sentence. And then the other person is to respond and not say, well, no, but, or not, no. It's always like, yes, and to validate something that the other person is offering, to accept an invitation, and to say yes, and then to be creative with that. And I love that idea that every conversation is a little bit of an improv, isn't it? And the conversations that are really boring are when one or the other of you are thinking, I've heard all this before. Or I've said all this before, I'm tired of hearing myself say it again. So participatory consciousness and outflow. Love is that outflow of positive energy, intending that life be more abundant for everyone. So I'm going to close with a couple quick little stories about experiences at Burning Man. So I'm walking out on the desert one of those days, realize I've forgotten my water bottle. It's a long trek back to the RV, and besides, I want to go investigate that installation way out there. And I just stop, and I'm doing some yoga stretches on the playa. And here comes a guy on his bicycle, another guy. There's lots of bicycles, because you're not allowed to drive cars around, unless it's an art car. And he just pulls up next to me, puts an orange down by me, smiles and pedals away. It's like gifting, taking care of each other. Didn't have to ask for it. Another time I'm out there walking, exploring, and they have dust storms in the desert. Anyone been in a dust storm? A dust storm can come up like that. It's just like the wind just comes up. And when it happens, you have to close your eyes and close your mouth. And it can go away in a minute, and everything calm, settle down again. When you open your eyes, you and everything around you is covered in that white dust of the desert. So I'm walking in my white dust, and here comes another bicycle, and it's someone with a mister, a water mister, and she says, "Can I mist you?" And I said, "Please, please." So there again, this is the culture of Burning Man. I'm going to get on my bike today and wander around and try to give people gifts. Try to take care of my community of 30, 40, 70,000 people. The last example of an experience, this happened early on, and it really is part of that freeing feeling, I think, that I got. I'm walking out on the playa, and there's a little tent, and outside the tent is a little temple of prayers and blessings, and everyone's welcome, come on in. So I crawl in, and I sit there, and there's an altar, and there's 3 young women sitting in the tent also. And by the way, everyone dresses pretty outrageously. If you ever wanted to have Halloween every day for a week, you go to Burning Man and you have that opportunity. And then, of course, it's so much fun to see how other people are dressed. One night, the last night, we were there when they're going to do the burning of the man. Before that, they have a whole fire show where there are beautiful young people with those hula hoops that have flames, and they're just walking around, and people on stilts and people with batons, fire batons, and incredible music is playing. And Mike and I find a seat right behind a royal couple. They were dressed like a prince and a princess from a fairy tale, and we were just very happy to make their acquaintance. They told us their prince and their princess's names, from what planet they were from. But it's like that. And also the humor is just everywhere. The Barbie dolls. Anyway. So I'm just come into this tent, and there are 3 women, and on the altar it says, "This tent is for our friend who's waiting trial for a misdemeanor, and so he couldn't be here with us this year. He comes every year, and he couldn't be here. So please just come in and send your prayers and blessings for his well-being." And so we're doing that. And the young women and I started talking, and they're telling me a little bit about themselves. And all of a sudden, an improvisational moment, I just said, "Can I give you each a reading?" I don't give readings, I'm not a psychic, I don't do that. But I just felt like I wanted to offer something to each one individually, just a few sentences. I didn't know what I was going to say, that maybe would be a blessing to them. And it was so beautiful. I sat in front of each one, looked into their eyes, just waited a moment, felt that heart connection, and then just said whatever came to my mind. And the reaction I got was just, some tears and smiles, and I think they felt seen and encouraged and affirmed. So beautiful and so easy. Let's all go down the street in Melbourne and stop people and give them readings, right? Well, I have to tell you the Santa Claus story, and then I'm almost done. So we go into a tent one night. By the way, a lot of people want to party, so they bring a lot of, what do they call them, adult beverages, and they set up bars around in the area, and everything's free. You cannot buy anything. So anyway, we walk into this tent, and I sit down next to Santa Claus, and I said to him, so what brings you to Burning Man, and why are you dressed like this? And he tells me this beautiful story. He says, for many years, my son and I, my adult son and I, were estranged. We didn't talk for years. And then one year, his son went to Burning Man. He had some kind of, this is me putting this editorializing, he must have had some kind of really heart-opening, transformative experience at Burning Man. Back to Santa Claus. He says, and when he came back, he contacted me and he said, I'd like you to go with me next year and spend the week with me at Burning Man. And I did. And since then, for the last 7 or 8 years, this is a week that we spend together every year. And I dress like Santa Claus because it's the best gift I could ever give or ever receive, a week with my son, just being present and with him, our presence for each other, best gift. So this is just a little taste of what this culture is like. I had one more piece of paper. I don't know if it's here or not. But basically, oh, here it is. As I'm working on the talk yesterday, this is what comes from a friend of mine. She sent this in an email to me, and she had gotten it from a Substack. Don't get so hypnotized by the machine that you forget why you're here. Some systems collapse under the weight of their own design, and you don't have to spend your whole life pushing those walls down. A lot of them will do that on their own. Your job is to stay rooted in what you came here to build. Reimagine the world. Envision something better. Let yourself dream bigger than what you've been shown. This sometimes can look small in the moment, but it's usually creating things. So please do this. Write that poem. Start the garden. Cook the meal. Paint the sign. Create the art that reminds people that they're alive. Light up the world with revolutionary love, joy, care, beauty, magic. All the things that the machine doesn't know how to manufacture. So thank you, everyone. Bless you.